Chapter 221 Awakened Memory. Amara, the battle goddess of the previous Nexus content, fell into deep thought about her current situation. Liam. What an interesting kid, Amara muttered, reviewing what her reincarnated body had experienced in a few decades. Although Amara had just recovered her memory, her battle will in Nexus continent began to awaken. Although she couldn't fully control it, it made her fully conscious of who she was. Amara also felt several battle gods begin to awaken. The abyss was finally near, huh? Amara smiled wryly. According to their vow and restriction, they would reincarnate once the abyss realm was close to the Ethereum realm. This was the order put forward by Malgren. After all, their hatred for the people from other continents couldn't be suppressed if they didn't have a common enemy. Although they could be reincarnated, who would want to die if possible? Urging her battle will, Amara tried to sense how close to abyss realm was. A few epochs more. Amara estimated and sighed in relief. An epoch is 1 billion years. This means she and the others who had just reincarnated still had plenty of time to regain their previous strength. However, before that, my situation. Amara was speechless about her situation. The nature's battle goddess, the proudest being that looked at others like they were plants and trees, fell and married to a man. If her previous comrades from the past knew this, they would laugh their asses off and mock her for a few epochs at least. Thinking of Liam, Amara had a complex feeling. Although it was only a few decades of life, this was Amara's realist feeling. In the past, either she was fighting or on the way to fight. How could she still have time to fall in love? Thinking that she, an old witch, fell in love with a little kid, Amara couldn't help but blush. While she was still in a daze, the door opened. Amara, how is it? Did you finish absorbing the origin mana pool? Liam asked gently. Amara, who was naked as she had just absorbed the origin mana pool, reacted in a daze as Liam hugged her gently. The blush on her face further deepened as she felt her naked body being touched. Although she is immemorial which reincarnated, it's the first time she is this close to a man. Without answering, she quickly conjured clothes and tried to compose herself. Fortunately, her strong will was still there, so she quickly calmed down. I already absorbed it, Amara answered. Liam still didn't know that Amara was recovering her talent. Liam didn't even know why her father gifted origin mana pool if he would just regularly supply them with one. Since he had origin mana given by her father, the origin mana pool was given to Amara. After seeing that Amara absorbed it at a faster rate, Liam thought Amara had a special physique or something, so he only bothered a little. Even Amara previously thought so, but now that she has recovered her memory, Amara guessed that her father-in-law already somehow knew of her identity. Speaking of her father-in-law, Amara could only say that he was very mysterious. First, the seemingly endless wealth was disproportionate to his status. Second, possessing an overwhelming strength without background or inheritance. Third, creating a tailored top heaven-level cultivation manual. Furthermore, just a few months ago, they were imparted an ultimate dimensional cultivation manual. Reviewing the cultivation manual origin, Amara still had an unreal feeling. Such a heaven-defying method was given simply to her, without conditions or vows. Her father-in-law gave the same feeling she felt when she faced Malgren. The same unfathomable means and strength, as if everything in this world is unworthy of them. It's as if they treated everything as amusement, doing whatever they want without regard to consequences. This is also the very reason she had no thought of harming Liam. Her awakening battle will seems to warn her, giving her a premonition about the consequences of harming Liam. It made her feel that once he harmed Liam, she would be destroyed eternally without reincarnation. Of course, the harm that Amara means is by killing or maliciously harming him. As for the usual beating, it's still possible. Seeing Liam's clueless face, Amara couldn't help but clench her fist, eager to punch this bastard in the face. Is there a problem? Why are you in a daze? Liam asked worriedly. Nothing, it's just that I awakened a physique. Amara shifted the topic. Amara still held herself before she thought this through. Congratulations. Liam couldn't help but kiss her. Unfortunately, Amara was alert this time and dodged the kiss. What's wrong? Liam asked in puzzlement. Nothing. Amara couldn't think of a reason. Thinking that the plants and trees that she saw in the past kissing her, Amara couldn't help but have a complicated feeling. It's so complicated that no words can explain it. Well then celebrate. Liam didn't mind and grabbed Amara's hand. This time, Amara held her impulse to dodge Liam's hand. Amara still had to keep up the pretense before considering her following action. "Ha, Amara, you can do it!" Amara thought as she cheered herself. A month later. The relationship between Liam and Amara became vague. Liam believed Amara was going through a rebellious period, so he didn't worry much. However, he still sought advice from his father. Maximus suggested treating Amara with extra care and showering her with more love. Liam agreed with this advice and took Amara on dates all over the Origin domain. They even took a leave of absence because of this. As for Amara, she was nearly tortured by these new feelings. There was also this bastard who couldn't stop violating her whenever he wanted. Lightnovel. Amara could only punch and beat Liam in revenge after the deed was done. On the other hand, Liam thought it was just another play and happily cooperated. Meanwhile, Maximus was in the Moonlight Empire, witnessing the first operation of the Void Trains. After over a decade and the efforts of millions of his guild members, the Void Train would finally begin its first operation. "Your Majesty, how about we board the first trip of the Void Train?" Doran suggested. Sure, Maximus readily agreed. Looking at the Void Train, he couldn't help but remember his past life. The Void Train resembled the train from his previous life. Initially, you only needed fixed void pathways and could use vehicles of various shapes for transportation. However, Maximus wanted more and suggested a unified public transport like the train in his previous life. Not only was it extra safe, but it also expedited construction as it didn't require many complicated arrays and components. Maximus nodded in satisfaction, boarding the Emperor's carriage part of the Void Train. "It's good enough." "Ha ha ha, Your Majesty overpraised." Doran laughed loudly. Doran didn't mind Maximus's lackluster compliment. Doran knew how high the standards His Majesty had. Having a compliment was already more than he could ask for. Soon, the Void Train circled the territories of the Moonlight Empire. With the help of millions of puppets and his guild members, by now, the entirety of the Sunsea region was reoccupied. Although there was still an ongoing sea beast tide, defending against them was easy. There was also a barrier formation and a subteleportation array in case of an emergency. Now, there was even a Void Train connecting the various scattered islands. It can be said that the Moonlight Empire is more prosperous than ever. As for the subteleportation array, it's not for transportation, it's only for emergencies. The magic crystals needed to activate the subteleportation array are very expensive. Although Maximus can fully afford it without much burden, he didn't want such unnecessary expenses. Now, with cheap transportation via the Void Train, the exchange and trade between the Moonlight Empire will explode. "Your Majesty, what do you think about the next development of the Moonlight Empire?" Doran asked. "The Moonlight Empire is developing rapidly, they only need a direction and everything will be set." "Of course, we conquer the whole Cursed Continent," Maximus said seriously. "I understand, Your Majesty." Doran bowed excitedly. Conquering the whole Cursed Continent, what a grand direction. Although Doran knew their ultimate goal was this, he was still excited. Finally, all the side missions were finished, it was time to tackle their primary mission. A bunch of plans couldn't help but emerge in Doran's mind as he thought of possibilities. First, the army needs to be expanded and more streamlined. Second, logistics must be expanded and more supplies must be prepared. Third, the officials for management also need to be trained in advance. Fourth, weapons, armor, war machines, potions, consumables, etc. must be developed. Fifth, train the citizens' response rate for the possible counterattack of the opposing empires. Sixth, seventh, eighth. As Doran's mind was running widely, Maximus leisurely looked at the scenery. As for the plan for conquering the Cursed Continent, it was not in his mind at all. Everything in this world is based on strength, everything comes automatically after. With the accumulation of things, Maximus was never afraid of anything. The Cursed Continent was merely a stepping stone for him to conquer the whole Ethereum realm, solidifying his conquest to all dimensions. Chapter 222 Additional Family Member. 3 years later. At Maximus Manor, in a newly built nursery. Zoe was with her husband, Nathan, as a dedicated puppet orderly set up complicated arrays before she came to labor. Lightnovel. It's been exactly 5 years since Zoe became pregnant. And 5 years is also the limit that a child can stay in her belly. Unless one is at a higher tier, 5 years is already the limit one can nurture a child. If Zoe suppresses it more, her child may have a problem instead. Meanwhile, looking at her wife, lying on the bed, Nathan couldn't help but be nervous. His usual emotionless face was also replaced with beads of sweat as nervousness permeated within him. "Don't be too nervous, father-in-law had already arranged everything," Zoe comforted. "I'm just worried." Nathan also calmed down a little. Seeing such an advanced nursery, Nathan could only praise her father for his thoughtfulness. If the two knew how much Maximus spent on this nursery, their worries would be nothing. Maximus spent over 100,000 trillion dimensional coins on this nursery building dedicated to childbirth. This is nearly his income for the past 3 years. After the frenzy of the Dimensional Origin library for a few more months, it came back to its original state. Usually, his income per year is about 10,000 trillion dimensional coins. If it were not for his accumulation in the first few months, Maximus could not even afford this nursery building. The function of this nursery is safety. It can be said that even if you want to harm yourself here, you would be revived shortly after. It's so advanced that even the most complicated creature can give birth here without worry. Of course, if it's just that, then 100,000 trillion dimensional coins was not worth it. The main function of this nursery is a guaranteed dimensional physique. All beings in the world, whether they are low in potential, have a special physique. The only difference is how high the rank of the physique is. If it's a mortal physique, then it's just a useless one without much help, which is usually what most have. For heaven/god physique, it's usually already decent, which most talented people have. As for dimensional physique, it's the pride of every dimension. Those who have it can represent their dimension's future. Even in the Ethereum realm, there are only a handful of people who have dimensional physiques. This nursery building is a Tier 10 special architecture that can guarantee a dimensional physique. If it were not for the inbuilt suppression array he requested from the seller, the Ethereum realm couldn't even accommodate this thing. Of course, such a heaven-defying thing that surpasses the Ethereum realm is not cheap to use. Every birth process costs tens of thousands of trillions of dimensional coins each turn. It can be said that Maximus spent all his life's property so as not to wrong his future children and grandchildren. Soon, the formation began to activate as mana began to converge. Zoe felt warmth all over her, especially in the stomach area. The puppets in the room surrounded her as a bunch of rune prints were engraved on her body. After a few minutes, a special mini-teleportation array was engraved. After a warm sensation, Zoe saw her belly collapse like a balloon as it began to rapidly heal. Zio became nervous for a while, unable to find her child. Fortunately, Nathan was there to comfort her and pointed to where their child was. Looking around, she saw their child floating midair surrounded by dense mana and runes. Although the two were shocked, there was not much confusion. This had already been explained to them by Maximus, which was good for their child. After a few hours, it seemed that their child was satisfied as the dense mana surrounding him disappeared. Slowly, their child floated beside them. Looking at the pitch-black hair and eyes, the child is very much like Nathan. The child was guided into her arms, looking around curiously. "It's a boy," Zoe smiled as she confirmed the gender of the child. Because they wanted it to be a surprise, they didn't check the gender of the child in advance. "Nathan, we have a son," Zoe whispered to Nathan. "I know," Nathan nodded with a smile. Looking at the lively child who was curiously looking at them, Zoe couldn't help but pinch his cheeks. The baby hummed as he was pinched by her mother. Zoe didn't mind and continued to play with his face. "What do you think of the name for the child?" Zoe asked. "Sylvan." "The name of our son is Sylvan," Nathan said after some thought. Sylvan means emptiness with ever-growing potential. Nathan hoped his child would not be distracted in the future like emptiness and continue to grow peacefully like the void. "Sylvan," Zoe repeated. "It's good. From now on you will be baby Sylvan," Zio pinched her child. While the two were bonding with their newly born child, Maximus and the others were anxiously waiting for their grandchildren and nephew. After all, it's the first time for their child/brother to have a child, so they couldn't help but worry. Fortunately, the nursery building is indeed effective. After Zio gave birth to a child, Maximus was notified by his system of an additional grandson. Sylvan Shadowcrest. Potential, rank 8 supreme. Physique, dimensional void body unawakened. Parents, Nathan, Zoe. Dimensional void body Maximus fell into thought. Seeing that his first grandson had a dimensional level physique, he felt that his investment was worth it. Searching to his memory, dimensional void body is quite a powerful physique. The usual affinity to time and space elements would be through the roof, surpassing the inherent one. You can also travel to Viad more easily like it's your natural home ground. Even breaking through a dimensional barrier will be as easy as stretching your finger. This physique can be said to be an attack and evasion type physique suitable for a scout or assassin. It seems that this kid inherited the natural profession of his father. As for an unawakened physique, it usually shows its effects once your potential reaches tier 7. His children, except for Lux, are still at rank 6 divine potential. Until now, even with a deep scan of his system, he still didn't know what their physiques were. He only got to know Neo's physique because it manifested earlier. As for others without the fluctuation of their physique, he can only have a rough guess. Zoe already gave birth, and Maximus shared the good news. As for how he knew, the others didn't care. Soon, a celebration ensued within the manor as they greeted their newly added family member. Nathan, who was usually taciturn, also began to show off his child to his brother and sister, especially to Liam. "How is it, brother? Is my child cute?" Nathan smiled. "Cute indeed," Liam complimented sincerely. "Ha ha ha, then you should have a child quickly," Nathan couldn't help but tease. The smile on Liam's face became still all of a sudden. Remembering his current relationship with his wife, Liam couldn't help but sigh. Since 3 years ago, his wife seemed to change. After their date for a few months, Amara went into seclusion. Besides the occasional meeting due to his insistence, it seemed that Amara became embedded in cultivation. Now he could only cry alone on his bed. Amara on the side also couldn't help but blush, looking at the newly born nephew, distracted. Since Amara couldn't get rid of Liam, she can only focus on training and forget everything. Unfortunately, it barely works, as Liam can still found various reasons to kidnap her. After teasing Liam, Nathan began to show off his son to others. "Lux, come see your nephew and give some allowance," Nathan eagerly demanded. As the richest among the siblings, it is only right for an uncle to give his nephew an allowance. "No problem, leave it to me," Lux smiled as he patted his chest. Looking at Sylvan, Lux couldn't help but feel a sense of closeness. Baby Sylvan also eagerly stretched his hand, hoping for Lux to carry him. "Hey, it seems like your child likes me more than you," Lux joked as he carried Sylvan. Duh. Sylvan mumbled as he patted Lux's face. "Hee hee, that's right, I'm your second father." Lux couldn't help but pamper the child. Nathan became jealous for a while and quickly grabbed his child. "Sylvan, that's your uncle, not your papa," Nathan explained like a child. Sylvan looked at him in puzzlement and pointed at him, duh. Then pointed at Lux, ple. Sylvan mumbled. Although he can't still properly speak, having a tier 8 talent and dimensional physique, Sylvan's comprehension is no joke. Maybe in a few days, Sylvan would learn to speak fluently. Just like Lux, who became a money grabber only after a few months. "That's right, that's your uncle, I'm your papa." Nathan nodded excitedly. Giggle asterisk. Sylvan laughed at the silliness of his father. The celebration continued as Nathan's smile never faded as he became the most cheerful person in the room. Maximus could only sigh at the power of family. The usually taciturn Nathan became such a loving father in a few minutes after he had a son. Maximus perfectly understood this feeling. Having a child, it seems that everything in the world is at your fingertips. It seems that every goal is complete. Even the most frosty face can be melted with the sight of your child's smile. "Now, in a few years, it's your turn," Maximus muttered to Emma. Emma nodded as she looked lovingly at her bulging stomach. "Baby, you should hurry and come out, I'm excited to meet you," Emma muttered silently. Chapter 223 Birth of the 13th Child. 1.5 years later. In the nursery, Emma leisurely laid down. Maximus, on the side, although a bit nervous, didn't worry much. The husband and wife even had the mood to discuss the name of the child while the puppets did their thing. "What about Felicity?" Emma suggested. "It's too deliberate." "What about Charmaine?" "Too girly." "Zara?" "Too common." "What about—" Just as they were thinking of a name, the baby they were talking about had already finished absorbing the nursery building's special energy. Floating beside them, the baby looked puzzled as to why these two humans didn't look at her. The baby tried to make a noise. The two oblivious parents finally noticed the baby. Looking at such a cute child, a name couldn't help but pop up in Emma. "What about Asha?" "Asha?" Maximus repeated as he slowly took the baby in his hand. The baby seemed to agree and reminded them. Asha? The baby hummed again. Asha? Asha? Straight face. This time the baby probably noticed that she was being made a fool of as she stretched her hand to her mother. In Emma's hand, the baby seemed tired as it quickly went to sleep. Asha is good, quite apt for our child, Maximus said, confirming the chosen name of Emma. Lightnovel Asha means hope and luck, which is quite auspicious and matches the physique of the girl. Asha Shadowcrest. Potential, rank 8 supreme. Physique, absolute luck, dimensional, unawakent. Parents, Maximus, Emma. Absolute luck can be said to be super strong, it's abnormal. With absolute luck, whether walking or adventuring, you will always get what you want. In a lottery or gambling, even if your opponent cheated, you can still win. When it comes to probability, as long as you want it, it can be 0% or 100%. To those enemies who mean harm to you, may they still be alive after experiencing various catastrophes. It's so strong that you don't even need to fight and just need to enjoy life. Maximus was even a little jealous. Unfortunately, it only comes to those who are naturally lucky. Even a tier 12 being who can interfere with the very origin dimensions can't just grant absolute luck to whoever they want. Giving his wife and child a kiss, he let them rest for celebration later. Welcome to the world, baby Asha. Emma also slept a little to recharge her energy. Although it seemed easy to give birth, the mental pressure that has gone through the 5 years is no joke. Seeing his 2 lovely girls sleeping, Maximus couldn't help but smile. With the additional member of the family, the manor became filled with laughter and excitement. In the yard, Lux eagerly held Asha in her hands. Baby Asha, from now on, you are my favorite sister. Lux said softly. Nah. Asha seemed to be negotiating. Don't worry, if you have anything you like, I can do it for you regardless. Lux nodded as if understanding Asha. Asha seemed to agree to being Lux's favorite sister. Ha, that's right, we will be the best siblings forever. Lux laughed loudly as if winning a lottery. Seeing this, Maximus just shook his head. Lux was really keen when it came to money. Just having a glimpse of his sister, he had already concluded how great Asha was. All those who are close to Asha will also be surrounded by luck. Although absolute luck is still unawakened, a little luck is already a huge fortune for Lux. With the huge business empire scattered across all of the Silverleaf domain, a slight change of luck is equivalent to a huge magnitude of money. Of course, it's not just that. After Asha awakened her physique, stealing money from the Ethereum realm will be as easy as picking stones. In the stock market, even without studying, Asha can casually choose who to invest in, and it would be prosperous in an instant. Even if there is behind-the-scenes manipulation, it would not work. A dimensional-level physique is no joke. Unless it's a tier 10 or a fellow who also has a dimensional physique at a stronger realm, nothing could work. Alright, enough of that, give me my daughter. Maximus became a little jealous and grabbed his daughter. Dad, just let me pamper my little sister for a while, Lux complained. No. Maximus didn't compromise. Showing little Asha to his wives and children, the laughter ensued. Jane also dragged him, whispering words. After all, now that Emma had a child, it was her turn. Maximus also worked super hard that night, without any result. A year later. In Maximus' training chamber, a surge of mana collided and formed a dense mana aggregate. Each condensed mana was like a hurricane and tsunami, hoping to crush Maximus. However, instead of causing harm, Maximus's body began to transform. Bit by bit, his elemental mana pathways began to collide and integrate. Every beat of his heart seemed to transform his body to be more suitable for the world. After a few hours of transformation, Maximus opened his eyes. Tier 6. After living in this world for nearly half a century, he finally reached Tier 6. Time passed by so quickly. From a nobleman to an emperor. From the weakest mage to the strongest Tier 6 being in the world. Thinking of all the times he had been through, Maximus sighed. Opening his system panel, he looked at his status. Maximus Shadowcrest. Tier 6, 0%. Mana compatibility, rank 9 dimensional source ultimate. Soul amplitude, 10 million, 1%. Soul will, 10 million, 1%. 1115 element affinity, rank 8, 0/1, 000 trillion. 3 supreme elements affinity, rank 6, 0/10 trillion. Seeing the change in his status, he couldn't help but smile. The percentage bar is another goal to conquer. As for the elemental affinity, it needed 1,000 trillion potential points to upgrade to another rank. With his daily acquisition of over 6 billion per day, it would take him centuries to make his affinity peak. However, by then, he should already be the Holy Emperor of the Cursed Continent. Saving 1,000 trillion points by then should take merely a few years. Thus, after he upgraded his 3 supreme affinities to rank 7, Maximus decided to concentrate on his soul amplitude and soul will. At the same time, he would also begin to conceive the Tier 8 chapter of Origin. He was greedy, thinking about how much he would earn when the time came. Just the Tier 7 books gave him financial freedom. He wondered what would happen if he sold Tier 8 books. After sorting out his next plan, he went to the Myriad World Mall to buy a Tier 6 ultimate treasure. After browsing, Maximus heaved a sigh of relief that he could buy the complete set of Tier 6 ultimate treasure. After reaching Tier 7, ultimate treasures became rarer and more scarce, and they were rarely sold. When Maximus browsed in the past, he only saw a few pieces of it for sale, and it was so expensive that he didn't even bother to count the zeros. Even for Tier 6 ultimate treasure, sometimes there were few ultimate treasures in line with his elements missing. Now, there is a complete set, how could he not be happy? After reserving the set of Tier 6 ultimate treasures, he resolutely quit the Myriad World Mall. There were only about 10,000 trillion coins in his balance right now. And the total of the Tier 6 ultimate treasure is over 150,000 trillion dimensional coins. It would take him over a decade before he could get that amount. Fortunately, with the benefits of his one-star shop, he can reserve any number of items for at least 100 years without any deposit. Seeing that all the things had been done, he eagerly exited his training chamber to meet his daughter. Coming out, he was greeted by Asha jumping at him. "Dad! What's wrong? Are you not having fun with your brother?" Maximus asked with a smile as he carried her in his arms. "No, I just miss Dad," Asha said sweetly. "Oh, I miss my baby Asha too." Maximus melted and kissed her cheeks. "Then why don't you tell me what you did when I was away?" "I played games with Sister Arya and Brother Neo." "Did you have fun?" "It's super fun. It's very easy to defeat Sister Arya, which is too funny. Brother Neo is also super cool. He can defeat all the bosses with his feet and with his eyes closed." Asha chattered about all the fun things she did this morning. Asha's favorite brother can be said to be Neo. Being with Neo, Asha can be as leisurely as she wants, eating food and playing games. As for her brother Lux, Asha also likes him very much. It can be said that her brother Lux is like her wishing fairy, buying and granting all she wants. Unfortunately, her brother didn't have much time to play with her, which is a pity. Thinking of their promise of being the best siblings forever, Asha pouted. "What's wrong? Who made you unhappy?" Maximus asked, noticing the pout of his daughter. "It's Brother Lux, he can't play with me." That brother of yours." "Don't worry, we'll drag that workaholic brother for you to play," Maximus said forcefully. "Yay. You're the best dad." Chapter 224 Tier 9 Ship. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. In the Shadowhunter city, a gigantic ship, almost the size of the city, proudly presented itself amidst the scenery. "How is it, guild leader?" Andrew, one of the vice leaders of the guild, asked. "It's not bad. It's built faster than I thought," Maximus nodded in satisfaction. "We have many hard-working guild members, so it was finished quickly," Andrew reasoned. Over the decade, the members of the Shadowhunter Guild multiplied like locusts. From over 100 million to almost 1 billion guild members now. A large part of this is because Maximus became more generous. With his Tier 6 realm and his stature, there are more things he can provide without causing a commotion. Some rare resources that were originally not present were rewarded generously. There is also the Tier 7 chapter of cultivation manuals, spells, and techniques. Because of this, many past graduate students of Origin Aracana Institute who were at Tier 7 came back to the Origin domain to join his guild. To achieve this feat, he had posted a mission of secret solicitation in the guild. With the eagerness for the reward, his guild member became the greatest undercover, digging the foundation of those weaker organizations. As it's a secret operation, it didn't alarm many. Furthermore, it's only Tier 7 individuals that he solicited, which is not a concern for the truly powerful organization. What they didn't know was that it was a premonition. In the future, many would raise their salary, just to not let these talents be poached by Maximus. Now, Maximus is still weak and he can only secretly solicit their talents. The benefits told was just some rare resources. The heaven-level cultivation manual, spell and techniques was not shown until they joined the guild. After all, he can't always set up complicated vow or contracts, like pact of inheritance, while poaching others. Maximus was careful not to spread a word that he had heavenly defying manuals in his guild. When do you think we should go to the Chaotic Sea, Guildmaster? Andrew asked intently. Before the establishment of the guild, Maximus promised them that they would roam through all the Chaotic Sea. This is also where the name of the guild came from. All that they are doing in the past was just to solidify foundation before sailing the Chaotic Sea. As soon as possible. How can we not hurry to test our ship? Maximus smiled excitedly. Seeing the ship, Maximus feel like saying his beloved. After spending so much effort and money, it was finally finished at last. Although he can just buy one in the Myriad World Mall, a personalized ship is still worth looking forward to. All the thought that they put into this cannot be compared to some mass-produced product. Furthermore, in these 10 years, he invested over 100,000 trillion dimensional coins for the finishing touch. Although the ship is still Tier 9 now, a slumbering infinite potential is hidden within. Maximus estimated that this ship reached pseudo-dimensional level without the scan of his system. Then we will prepare right away, Guild Leader, Andrew excitedly replied. By the way, we still didn't have a name for the ship. What do you think is a suitable name, Guild Leader? Right, let me think, Maximus fell into thought. How about Eternal Voyager? Maximus suggested. That's a great name, Guild Leader. Eternal Voyager, to explore eternally, discovering all the wonders of the world. Then it's Eternal Voyager, it is, Maximus nodded, also satisfied with the name that he thought. Name, Eternal Voyager, Tier 9 growth. Ship spirit, pseudo-dimensional, unactivated. Size, 30,000 kilometers width, 150,000 kilometers length, 10,000 kilometers height. Passenger capacity, 3 billion. Lightnovel speed, 1,000 to 10,000 light-years per day. Looking at the status of the ship, Maximus was more than satisfied. It may take a few months to prepare, Guild Leader. Let us witness the mightiness of this beast by then, Andrew said after estimating the time. Then I'm looking forward to it. 3 months later. Maximus was about to say goodbye to his family as he prepared to explore the Chaotic Sea. Dad, can I come? Asha asked pitifully. All right, you can come with me, Maximus agreed without thinking. Yay! You're my best daddy ever. Asha said, acting coquettish. After more than a decade, Asha had grown to the size of a teenager. However, the innocence in her eyes seemed to be magnified, that others couldn't bear to resist her cuteness. In the whole family, it could be said that Asha was the favorite child. Whatever she requested could be done immediately. Due to this, Asha grew up super spoiled without knowing the dangers of the world. Fortunately, the world seemed to spoil her more. Wild beasts would be like puppies when they met her. The bad guys would be disabled before meeting her. Those with malicious thoughts were too busy dealing with their increasing problems, as if the world was against them. The luck of the world seemed to concentrate on her, that she didn't encounter any hint of danger or problems. This is still in the unawakened state of her psyche. Once she fully awakened it, maybe Asha would be invincible without training. This time, taking Asha to the Chaotic Sea was a measure and an additional luck. Although Maximus was sure of his safety, some precautions were still needed. Furthermore, with some luck, maybe they could find some more treasures. Grandpa, I also want to go, Sylvan, the son of Nathan, asked. Sure, you can come, Maximus agreed quickly. After hearing that Asha and Sylvan could join, the others were also eager to join. Finally, amid the commotion, all of his wives, plus Sky, joined in. For his children, the girls joined in without hesitation. As for the boys, except for Liam who was busy coaxing his wife, all of them joined in. Since 1 or 2 were joining, it couldn't hurt for others to join together. As for the Institute mandatory task and mission, it's not a problem. With his increasingly high status, even if his family left the Institute for a few years, no one would dare to embarrass them. During a decade when he became Tier 6, Maximus strengthened his influence in many ways. First is the ancient battlefield, with endless fights, he became a diamond rank fighter, equivalent to Tier 7. Second, his guild was finally promoted to Tier 8. The influence of such an organization is overwhelming. There was only millions of Tier 8 organization in the whole Ethereum realm. It may seem like a lot, but under the blessing of time, even the rarest thing can be mass produce. Compared to the countless emerging organization, the Shadowhunter Guild can be said to be a behemoth. As for Tier 9 organizations, there were less than 1,000 of them in the whole Ethereum realm. It can be said that these Tier 9 guilds indirectly control the lifeline of the entirety of Ethereum realm. Aside from him, there was also Lux's business guild, which became a sub-branch of his guild. Due to too much department, Lux decided to just merge Ethereum Guild with his father. Anyway, they are one family, most of his department will also disappear. What a good deal! Ethereum Guild had already spread across more than 10 domains in the Arcane continent. Although it could still not occupy the market and was still struggling, it had a huge influence. There was also Moonlight Empire. Usually, an empire on the Curse continent would just be an inconspicuous backward place. But because it's the era of imperial domination, it can still add some weight to influence of the place. As one of the most promising emperors, to become the ruler of the Curse continent. Most organizations paid a lot of attention to him. There were also his wives and children. They were already famous prodigies within the institute. With origin as a cultivation skill, it can be said that they are invincible in their realm. Jumping and easily defeating a realm above them is also no problem. Many thought that Maximus and his family have some huge secret. Fortunately, no one was hot-headed enough to confront him with it. The Apex Sovereign also didn't care about such trivial matters that didn't concern their interest. Maximus was just a Tier 6 weakling, besides Fialon, who cared for such little prodigies. Most of the Apex Sovereign didn't care. In Shadowhunter City. Just as they arrive in Shadowhunter City, Maximus' family couldn't help but look at the gigantic ship. It stood tall among the various buildings, like a wonder of the world. Tens of millions of guild members who were chosen and had the opportunity to board the ship on its first trip were also lining up. "Guild leader, you are here," Andrew shouted, seeing that he had finally arrived. "Is everything ready?" "Don't worry, guild leader. I made sure to prepare everything," Andrew patted his chest confidently.
Ha ha ha, then let's set sail.
First, Maximus warped the massive ship with his spiritual consciousness and took it into his storage dimension. A ship of such size with various space-folding compartments couldn't possibly fit in an ordinary storage space. In the Ethereum realm, only a small world with a solid space could accommodate items that have unique space foldings. Maximus didn't want to damage his plants, so he didn't put the ship in the timeless world. However, knowing that he had a small world, the others didn't doubt where he put the ship. Chapter 225 Continental Lands. After seeing Maximus put out the ship, Andrew looks at him and asks, "Guild leader, where should we go on our first trip?" "Let's go to the Quantum Reef domain," Maximus thought for a second and replied.
Quantum Reef domain?
Great. Guild leader really knew how to choose a place. The others sighed in relief, thinking that their guild leader had chosen a safe place for their first trip. Quantum Reef domain is just suitable for ambitious newbies like them. The Quantum Reef domain is directly connected to a part of the chaotic sea reef, full of aquatic resources and minerals. The water is also shallow, suitable for beginners like them to explore the dangers of the world. Maximus chose such a place after a bit of consideration. Although there are more resource-rich locations to choose from, the corresponding danger is also more significant, which is not worth it. As for how a domain can directly connect to a part of the chaotic sea, it's because each domain of the Arcane continent is not directly connected. The Arcane continent is an integrated alchemical wonder created to gather all the resources of the chaotic sea. It's because of the Continental teleportation array that, despite the situation, each domain of the Arcane continent is very interconnected, like a large piece of land. This is also why, despite the vastness of the Ethereum realm, it would only take a month for a Tier 9 ship to travel from the Curse continent to the Silverleaf domain. Silverleaf domain is situated in a safe place near the Curse continent to accumulate resources. Although there are not many resources to be found, there is no worry of danger either. Being only a few thousand years old, this part of Chaotic Sea is the safest place for the Silverleaf domain. This integrated alchemical wonder of the Arcane continent can also be considered ingenious. For every newly promoted Apex Sovereign, competing for territory is unnecessary. One only needs a vast amount of resources to create their own domain. Taking the land from the seabed, you can create a personalized domain at your discretion. Such an excellent idea, of course, is not unique to Arcane continent alone. Divine Continent is permanently stationed in the most peaceful part of the Chaotic Sea. As it's the most peaceful part of the Chaotic Sea, the resources are also mediocre. However, gods do not need resources and such. What they need is a peaceful and stable place where their believers can multiply and grow, contributing the maximum amount of faith. Although faith is not as omnipotent as the amalgamation of will, it's easier to control. Faith can also do many things besides assisting them with cultivation. First, resources, they can quickly generate low-tier resources to be consumed by their believers. Second, directly imparting faith to their believers. With enough faith, they can create a tier 8 being in a matter of days. Although it's weak like a cannon fodder, it's enough for them. Third, faith can also be condensed to magic crystals they can use to trade with other continents. It can be said that gods are the most environmentally friendly force in the Ethereum realm. They didn't need enormous resources, only a large tract of land. Thus, even though the divine continent is stationary, it is ever expanding. Every newborn god contributed to this never-ending growth, like a factory worker. This is not willingness, it's a death mission of all the gods. Each new god had a quota of land they needed to contribute every 1,000 years. Failing to complete this quota results in early elimination. Of course, no god dared to default on this mission. They are immortal, they would do anything to keep their status. While Divine Continent is the most environmentally friendly continent, the Beast Continent is the greediest continent. The continent is a devouring alchemy miracle that devoured everything to better itself. Their land is highly mobile, constantly traveling around the chaotic sea. Although it has the smallest body of land on all 4 continents, it's the most resource-intensive one. Probably only Origin Domain, a part of the Arcane Continent, can barely compare. Resources are a huge demand for beasts living on the land. They were not proficient in training, comprehension, and such. The only thing they can do is fight, hunt, kill, and survive. The harsh jungle of the Beast Continent trained and nurtured these beasts until they reached their potential. Of the 4 continents, only the Curse Continent had no unique alchemy future. In all of the epics, it's still the same, riddled with holes and cracks. Its only redeeming factor is the amalgamation of will by its citizens and the battle of will of the apex sovereigns. Even the past holy emperors can't do anything to change the status quo of the Cursed Continent. The only thing they can do is to recombine the land, which would later separate again after they died. Maximus vowed that after he conquered the Cursed Continent, he would change its status quo. The past holy emperors couldn't do anything because they were poor. However, Maximus is filthy rich, so terraforming a continent should be easy. Quantum Reef Domain. Arriving on the land, Maximus and the group couldn't help but smell the scent of the sea breeze. It seemed to be filtered, making the scent very pure and relaxing. If they were not here to test the ship, Maximus would set a picnic table to relax a bit. Without wasting time, tens of millions of people flew to the nearest port of the land. In the Quantum Reef Domain, the island is on top of extensive reefs, so finding a port is relatively easy. After flying for a few minutes, they secured a place. He took out the ship and placed it on the sea.
What is that?
Is that a ship? Are they here to go to war?
Damn, another rich kid has come to show off.
Heh, maybe a bunch of newbies who came to test the waters. I also want such a big ship. Keep dreaming. But mine look like a log compared to that. At least it's your ship, mine was rented but still looks like shit. Exclamation blared as many couldn't help but look at such a big ship. Although it was not the biggest ship they had ever seen, it was the biggest ship on Quantum Reef Domain. This is a beginner map. Usually, a Tier 7 ship is enough to go to the depths of the sea. Now, seeing such a domineering ship, it was like a behemoth came to play with their little people.
Dad, let's go.
Asha eagerly drags his father inside. Asha had been dying to see the interior of the ship since she saw it earlier. All right, Maximus smiled happily at Asha's clinginess. His 30-year-old daughter, on the other hand, was already very shy. Coming inside was a luxurious interior showing his majesty. Wow, so beautiful, Asha muttered as her eyes lit up. This is the beauty of being rich, Lux muttered on the side. Lux estimated that just the interior here surpasses all the wealth of his guild. Until now, Lux was still puzzled by where his cheap father got this massive wealth without making a splash. Unfortunately, his father kept it tightly and wouldn't share his money-making methods. Soon, tens of millions of guild members boarded the ship. Such a humongous ship, without the map, they would be lost inside. Fortunately, they created this one by hand. Even in their sleep, they dreamed of building the ship. So, how could they still be lost on the ship? Navigating the ship, Maximus guided his family to Master Suit. This suit is probably the most luxurious part of the ship. Everything you need is here, from entertainment, food, drinks, fighting, cultivation, and more. If it were not for the smaller size, his family would have even thought that Maximus had moved their house here.
Dad, where's the top deck?
We can't see anything here, Asha pouted and found it boring. All this luxuriousness was hurting her eyes. She wanted to see the beautiful sea. The others also nodded. After all, they came here thinking about the sea. We're already at the top deck, just wait.
Wait?
They mumbled in puzzlement. Soon, they heard a click as the ceiling began to collapse. Looking outside, they saw a beautiful clear sea filled with corals, fish, and birds formed in perfect harmony, creating a paradise out of this world.
Wow!
So beautiful! As they were still inside the domain, the chaotic aura was filtered, allowing these beautiful species to thrive. Otherwise, what they will see is chaotic current teeming with ugly monsters. Do you want to go swim in it? We have little boats, submarines, and water machines, Maximus suggested. Anyway, he still needed to calibrate the ship before they set sail.
Really? Then we want to.
Those little fishy looks delicious.
No, it's cute.
I want to collect shells.
Then let's see who can collect the most beautiful shell.
Seeing his children act like kids again brought him and his wives a smile.